Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2018 International Town and Gown Association City and University Relations Conference. Please welcome the Executive Director and current President of the International Town and Gown Association, Beth Bagwell and Janet Lilly.
Good morning. How are you? Beth, we need to do that again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the 13th Annual ITGA University Relations Conference. We are so happy to have you here at Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. We have an impressive group today. I'm Janet Lilly. I'm the president of ITGA. With me, Beth Bagwell, executive director for ITGA. And this impressive group that we have amongst us is representing 36 different states as well as provinces. 41% of us are from cities, towns, and the private sector, and 59% of us are from higher ed institutions. Yeah. Give it up! Woo, woo! What else makes this conference great? Well, we have record attendance. And so what that means is all of us, have this great opportunity over the next several days to network, learn from each other, attend many, many sessions, and take home a lot of great ideas to continue those conversations back in our home communities. Now I'd like to turn it over to Beth for some additional information for the conference.
Good morning, everyone. It's so exciting to be here. I feel like we've been planning for a wedding and finally everybody came. So here are some fun facts that you may not know about the city of Columbus and Ohio State University. Columbus, Ohio is the 14th largest city. 48% of Americans live within 600 miles of Columbus. The very first Wendy's restaurant opened on East Board Street in November of 1969. The city was named in honor of Christopher Columbus and was founded in February the 14th of 1812. And Columbus is one of the fastest growing cities and is also home to five Fortune 500 companies nationwide: L Brand, AEP, Cardinal Health, and Big Lots. Ohio State University was established in 1804, making it the oldest public institution of higher learning in Ohio and first in the Northwest Territory. The Ohio Union hosts over 22,000 events per year and greet a little over 9,000 guests per day. OSU is a land grant, Sea Grant, and Space Grant University. I like this one a lot. #1 best colleges for veterans. And so those are the facts. That's just a little bit of facts about OSU and the city of Columbus. Please give a round of applause for this year's conference host, Dale Nakama, as she joins us on the stage.
Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to have you in the city of Columbus and at The Ohio State University. We are honored to host this amazing conference at Ohio State. I've had the privilege of attending this conference over the years and have always had an absolutely phenomenal experience. I'm excited to now introduce to you all our featured speakers this morning. Dr. Javon Adams-Gaston, or Dr. J, as we affectionately call her, oversees the operations of the Office of Student Life and its constituent departments. She represents student life in the university's senior administration and provides leadership on issues affecting students. She has broad leadership responsibility for numerous university operations affecting students outside of the classroom. She is the recipient of numerous awards, including the 2009 Diamond Honoree Award from the ACPA College Student Educators, the highest honor of the American College Personnel Association, which recognized her transformative contributions to the field. The award cited her relationally centered approach, committed to diversity and inclusivity, and desire to help others reach the fullest potential. Columbus City Council President Shannon Hardin serves as the chair of the Rules and Reference Committee, which oversees the approval and placement of legislation on the agenda, Columbus City Code changes, and appointments. During his time on council, he has laid the groundwork to promote equality in Columbus by leveling barriers for transportation, creating new opportunities for small businesses, and working to eliminate opportunity gaps for young men of color. Council President Hardin believes that investing in our transportation infrastructure helps residents access jobs, education, and health care. With the $140 million grant with Smart Cities Challenge, the Smart Columbus team is working with partners across the city to improve our transportation system by implementing smart technology on our public transportation lines, increasing electric car utilization, and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Columbus City Council President Shannon Hardin and Dr. Javon Adams-Gaston.
Well, good morning and welcome to the 2018 ITGA International Town and Gown Association. I can think of nothing that I'd rather be doing this morning than welcoming you to the university and to our city. As Dylan mentioned, I'm Dr. Javon Adams-Gaston, but the students all call me Dr. J, so feel free to call me Dr. J or Javon or whatever. Just don't call me late to any of the meals. I will tell you that as the Senior Vice President for Student Life at The Ohio State University, we are so proud to have been selected to host this incredible conference, and we thank each and every one of you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. And good morning, Dr. J. I have to admit that standing next to Dr. J, as we do all call her, so it's Dr. J, I feel a little inadequate. She is such an icon in our city. My name is Shannon Hardin, and as Ms. Dillon has said, I'm the president of Columbus City Council. And as council president, I not only represent the students, the faculty and staff at Ohio State, but I have the opportunity to work hand in hand with the university to tackle issues, big and small, throughout our city. Whether we are talking refuse or growing the middle class, OSU and the City of Columbus are partners.
And I am so pleased to be standing on stage next to our President of the Council, Shannon Hardin. I have had the distinct pleasure to spend time with Shannon, and he truly is a man of honor. He truly is a man who puts our city first. And in all of our institutions here in Columbus, government and higher education, we're stronger for the spirit of collaboration that we have. We're fortunate to have the strong partnership that we have. And Shannon, I thank you so very much for all that you do. You work so hard for this city and for all of the members of our community. Can we give Shannon a round of applause?
Thank you, Dr. J.
We all benefit, and I am so proud of our students because our students are in the community making a real difference in our community. We're proud that we're in a community that embraces the impact that our students make in the community, and that's due in large part to the things that you do, that you say, and that you support.
It really is a great partnership, and throughout this conference, you'll hear a lot from the folks here at the university and the City of Columbus about the seamless relationship that we share in moving our community forward. But we're so excited to show off Columbus this week as folks explore and learn about the impactful partnerships we've developed in Central Ohio. Furthermore, I want to encourage all of our attendees to dive headfirst into this conference and don't be afraid to share your expertise. We have a lot to share, but we have a lot to learn as well. You're here because you are all practitioners and the experts from your community. I cannot wait for all the great conversations and connections and for us to learn from each other.
Again, we want to welcome you to the ITGA City and University Relations Conference. You are welcome to the City of Columbus and the Ohio State University. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Please welcome Vice President of the Office of Governmental Affairs and Secretary of the Board of Trustees for The Ohio State University, Blake Thompson.
OH. Good morning. Thank you for that. My role here today is simply to introduce our featured speaker, Alex Fischer. Special privilege for me to do that. But before I do, I need to mention to you the work of Adam Grant. Have any of you heard of Adam Grant? Right? He's a Wharton professor, prolific writer. He's written the best-selling management book, Give and Take. In this book, he describes the keys to success in our lives and our community is how we interact with others. And he provides two different ways that people go about doing their interactions. He labels them givers and takers. That's the name of the book, Give and Take. He goes on to describe takers as people who strive to get as much as possible out of others. But then he describes givers as the rare breed of people who contribute to others without expecting anything in return. Grant goes on to write that this idea of giving selflessly has the power to transform not just individuals, but it unlocks collaboration and builds networks of diverse groups of people who in turn transform entire organizations and communities. It's my privilege to provide an introduction this morning to the consummate giver, Alex Fischer. I've known Alex perhaps longer than anyone in this room, and I've been able to watch and learn from him over his career of giving to others. From his time in public service as the deputy governor of his home state of Tennessee to his senior leadership roles at Battelle, the world's largest nonprofit R&D organization, I've watched as he has brought together coalitions and directed them towards larger-than-life goals. And importantly, I never saw him ask anything in return. Some of you will know his leadership over the past decade or so as president and CEO of the Columbus Partnership, where he's given his time and energy to all of those involved in the historic Columbus 2020 economic development effort, which really is the cornerstone of our regional success and our regional relationships. He's helped to make Columbus the smart city of North America, and he gives back to our city in a number of civic roles, including as chairman of Nationwide Children's Hospital. I'm sure he'll talk to you today about the Columbus Way, which I see as simply a massive collection and collaboration of givers, all supporting our city, our region, and our university. Most recently, I've had the privilege of working very closely with him in his role as a trustee of Ohio State, where he chairs the board's master planning committee and helps to guide the institution's interface with the city of Columbus. There's no better leader to talk about the town-gown relationship, the future of our community, and the collaboration that makes it all possible than Alex Fischer. Now, before I bring him up, I'm going to take just one more moment, Alex, and say personally how thankful I am for what you've done for me. Alex and I both grew up in the South, on different sides of the Mississippi-Tennessee border, and I've heard Alex tell many times a great Southern story about giving to others. He tells this story about seeing a turtle on a fence post, and he always asks the question, what's the lesson you learned from seeing a turtle on a fence post? Anyone know the answer? Well, simple answer, but insightful answer, is that the turtle didn't get there all by itself. Someone had to help the turtle on the fence post. So what I want to tell you personally and what I want to tell Alex is that in my career, I think of myself as that turtle on a fence post. The places that I have gotten in life have been because of a generous giver named Alex Fischer. I'm thankful for his friendship. Columbus is fortunate that he continues to give his time and talent, and I'm pleased to welcome him to campus today. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Fischer.
That literally may be the kindest introduction I've ever had. I'm going to take Blake on the road. That may be the kindest introduction I've ever had. And Dr. Thompson now has a bigger fence post that he's getting ready to ascend to as the new president of Mississippi College here in about a month. And what a great contribution he'll make there, and what a great recognition that is to a rising star in higher education. So it is great to be with all of you all today. A collection of town leaders and university leaders, gown leaders and town leaders that are all gathered thinking about the relationship between cities and universities and colleges. And that is a topic that I believe very strongly in. And so it's exciting to talk just a little bit about it, give a little bit of context for it. The Columbus Partnership is the organization that I now lead. It is a collection of 75 chief executive officers whose organizations are headquartered in Columbus. We have 15 Fortune 1000 companies in our town, if you will, and all of those CEOs, as Blake said, are givers. They bring their energy to our boardroom table, leave their selfish interest at the door, bring their community interest to the table, working on community problems, issues of economic development, issues of tourism, downtown redevelopment, the issues of poverty and infant mortality. So some issues that are positive, some issues that are negative, the issues that face urban America, the issues that face our cities. But we're joined in our boardroom when we meet with 4 university presidents. It started with an invitation to include Gordon Gee, maybe one of the most famous university presidents in America, and now includes Dr. Drake, our university president here at Ohio State. Columbus College of Art and Design, Melanie Korn, David Harrison, the president of Columbus State Community College, and Adam Weinberg, the president of Denison, one of our great private universities here in Columbus. So a little bit about our town. In our town on many mornings, although this would be the exception because it's summertime, we have 150,000 college students that live in our city. That's 150,000 young, impressionable minds. If you look at this slide and some of the, whether it's Donato's or Scott's Miracle-Gro, or whether it's L Brands and Victoria's Secrets or Cardinal Health, let me ask what the average age of the CEO is of these companies and Fortune 100 companies around America when they founded the company. It's 25. Because entrepreneurialism doesn't happen when, some 50-year-old like me periodically checks his retirement account. And when his mortgage looks like it's more than paid off than less than paid off. Entrepreneurialism happens when kids are coming out of school. That's when I, at the age of 24, founded a social entrepreneurial organization. That's when entrepreneurship happens. And a point I would make just right off the bat is that is the power of the town-gown relationship. If there's a single thing I would say to you today, that the new economic development advantage, it's not location, it's not fiber optics, it's not interstates, it's not freeway interchanges, it's talent. And the cities that have talent and that can attract talent and retain talent are going to be the cities that win in the future. And the cities that are fortunate to have 150,000 college students, or in Blake Thompson's instance, 6,000 students just outside of Jackson, Mississippi, those are the cities that are going to win. Because economic development is all about a talent war. In that war, Columbus happens to be leading. There's a great article in the Columbus Dispatch this morning that says we broke the record of 150,000 net new jobs 2 years early, and it was a goal that everyone said we couldn't obtain. In fact, we did a big study 8 years ago, and McKinsey, the consulting firm, said if you do everything right, in the last decade you created 5,000 jobs. In the next decade you could create 122,558 jobs. And I said, well, that's a little hard to rattle off. How about we just say 150,000 jobs? They said, that'd be crazy. You would never be able to obtain it. And I said, well, if we create 120,000 net new jobs in our region over the next decade, I don't think anybody will complain. And today we announced 159,000 net new jobs in an 8-year period of time. Record growth in the 14th largest city, in the second largest city in the Midwest, second only to Chicago. 3 of the last 5 years running, we've been the fastest growing metro region, greater than 1 million people. But none of that happens if we don't have the foundation of talent, if we don't have the foundation of a place called Otterbein, or a place called Capitol, or a place called Denison, or Columbus College of Art and Design, Columbus State Community College with nearly 30,000 students in a 2+2 degree program that allows them to come to this great institution in a great city that allows them to retain it. Mixing it up, having CEOs serving in the same boardroom as the presidents of those colleges and universities, having a relationship that we have with all of our universities in this great institution is the holy grail to economic development in the future. I truly believe it. As we dream the bigger dream for economic development in our region, the dream will only be held back by our inability to go further in the town-gown relationship. Capital investment, per capita income, all steadily growing. I talked about a number of things that this community is winning, but just stop on the most intelligent community in the world. Do you think you could be the most intelligent community in the world if you're not in partnership with 150,000 college students? Absolutely not. That is the ingredient. So let me take you back in Columbus history. In 1905, we were the leader in the world in the manufacturing of buggies. We were number one in the world in buggy manufacturing, in the Columbus Buggy Manufacturing Company. I noticed that you may be going to Huntington Ballpark tonight for a baseball game, and right next door to Huntington Ballpark is the old Columbus Buggy Works, where 1 in every 4 buggies in the world were made in Columbus. And what happened? Henry Ford, the Model T, the combustion engine, and by 10 years, certainly by 1920, the Columbus Buggy Manufacturing Corporation was out of business, never to return to our city again. We lost an entire industry through what? Disruption. No one would have ever thought that this means of transportation. So what is this picture? This is a picture from Paris at the 1906 World's Fair, where Columbus was proudly exhibiting at the World's Fair the 10 latest and greatest horse-drawn buggies. It's a reminder that this world is happening and changing really, really fast. This is a scene in that same decade. Same New York City street. On the left in 1905 and on the right in 1915, 1920-ish. Total transformation. And yet, that was when the world was moving really, really slow. Not in a world like today, in which this is the 10th version, although this is only version 8, but there are 10 versions of this over the last decade. There's more power in this little device than sent our native Columbus John Glenn to the moon and back. More social power in this than you could ever imagine. In fact, the world is changing really, really quick. And I want you to remember that and think about that as I come back towards the end. Columbus recently won the Smart Cities designation in a competition with 77 cities we beat out in the final round. Austin, in Denver, in San Francisco, in Pittsburgh, in Portland, and great cities around the country to win the Smart Cities designation, where we are building a foundation of a database that will share city information of all types from all corners, public and private, in a common database. We just had a hackathon Friday before last. Thousands of, mainly those 20-something, did I tell you we have 150,000 college students, throw a set of city data at them, give them a little bit of pizza, maybe some beers on the side, and all sorts of great ideas are coming out. That's the power of the town-gown relationship, and we're leveraging it in our Smart Cities Award. We're a city of a living laboratory. So you may not have known this, but if Les Wexner, who owns Victoria's Secrets, wants to sell undergarments, he tests them in Columbus first, because he knows that if they'll sell in Columbus, they'll sell all over the world. Wendy's and White Castle know that they'll test hamburgers and a new variety of menus, because if they sell in Columbus, they'll sell around the world. Presidential candidates, and it's no statement in the world that we live in today, I hope, but presidential candidates test out their ideas, because if you can win Franklin County, Ohio, which is the county that you're in, you can win the White House, because no one who hasn't has ever ascended to the White House. Columbus is a test bed, and what we're doing with smart cities across electric vehicles, across autonomous vehicles, across modes of transportation, is testing a series of ideas in a city that's big enough to have scale and small enough to do something with it. That is, in fact, the Columbus Way. The Columbus Way is a Harvard Business case study that was written about a group of CEOs who collaborate with their mayor. The U.S. Department of Transportation Smart Cities grant was just exactly that. Our mayor and private sector working together. The U.S. Department of Transportation put up $50 million. The private sector matched it with $100 million. We won the grant, and today the private sector has over $500 million in Smart Cities Columbus. That is leverage, and that is the Columbus Way, where a giving community, an engaged group of CEOs sitting with university presidents, there is a theme here, is getting things done in our city. So that's a little bit about Columbus, a little bit about the Columbus Partnership and a group of CEOs that are partnering with government and our university presidents. But let me talk about this town-gown relationship. So I'm going to do it only through the lens of the Ohio State University for just a moment, but again, you could take this lens through collaboration with universities all throughout our region. And I will tell you, I think we are just scratching the surface. In fact, I think if we don't break through in the future, we'll hold ourselves back economically. I think and I remember the early days of me being in my job, and Dr. Gee was the president of this institution, and he said, "Alex, why don't you join Dr. J and I and several of our colleagues on my president's council?" And the lawyers went a little crazy. Chris Culley couldn't quite figure out, he's our general counsel, how he would handle an outsider like me sitting inside with all the secrets of the university being discussed. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do about that? Gordon Gee was daring to invite somebody from downtown to come in underneath the tent. And we did that, and for several years I served on the president's council. What Gordon was really doing was trying to chip away at the question of what's a town-gown relationship. And oh, by the way, that's exactly why John Kasich appointed me to the Board of Trustees. I remember the conversation. I said, Governor, I'm a graduate of the University of Tennessee. I used to be deputy governor. I understand the power of the politics of trustee appointments, and I'm not sure you want to waste one on a non-alumnus of the university. He said, we've got to break down the leverage at the university, and if we'll ever unleash it, that will be the secret to Ohio's success. So from that lens, I'd like to ask this question, and I realize not everybody here is representative of a land-grant institution, but for just a moment assume that the genesis of the town-gown relationship actually dates back to the mid-1800s in the Morrill Act. And the question I ask, if Lincoln walked into the room today, would he be happy or sad? Would he be proud or not? Look, I get it as a son and a grandson of a tobacco farmer in Appalachia, Tennessee, the power of the land grant and what it meant in rural communities. But 80% of America now lives in urban areas, and that number is rising. The future is around cities. What will the university's land grant relationship with cities be, with mayors in urban areas, not to exclude rural areas, by the way, but what will it be in the future? In a world that is changing really, really quick, he probably would have understood the transition from the buggy to the Model T. Would he understand the transition to this device? Actually, I think he would. He was an innovator. But are these places of higher education innovating? And are they innovating with their communities in the 21st century? And are they doing it at the speed that they need to be doing? And I'm not going to try to answer that question for you today, but it's going to be the provocative question that I leave. Are we going far enough, fast enough, quick enough to keep up with the fast-changing pace of our cities, of our companies, of our workforce, the needs of our challenges in society, of infant mortality and poverty and the opioid crisis? And where is the answer of the land grants in our universities in the town-gown relationship? Because I believe that the answer for the land grants can only be answered if the land grant's in partnership with its community. I fundamentally believe that that is at the heart. I actually don't believe that these places of higher ed are owned by the faculty or owned by the students. I believe they're owned by the communities. And I believe communities have an obligation to stand up and get engaged and pull our institutions of higher education into the 21st century, a century that is changing really, really quickly, and to ensure that we leverage the power of 150,000 college students, the power of the knowledge of faculty members and staff, and bring that knowledge into our communities to make our communities stronger. So do not misunderstand me. This is not a one-way street. Mayors and CEOs are just as responsible as presidents and administrators and faculty members at universities. And we must strive for an even stronger and better relationship. I know that's why Blake Thompson is going to be a very successful university president, because I know that he gets it. Every year, Dr. J and I, at some level, and a couple of team members, Tracy and Jordan Davis, started something really, really fun in Columbus. We started a welcome event because we wanted to say to the incoming 6,000 or 7,000 freshmen here at Ohio State, welcome to your new town. We put them on buses after convocation and bussed them downtown to Nationwide Arena, and we did a big welcome event. And we had fireworks, and we brought out CEOs, and we brought out members of the Columbus Crew, our soccer team, and the Columbus Blue Jackets, and said, we want to introduce you to Columbus. And it's now been an award-winning tradition that's more than just an event. It's now become thousands of ambassadors trained on the Ohio State University about their community. teaching in dorm rooms as RAs and as faculty members about what it means to be a citizen of Columbus. We teach the Columbus way. We teach about that collaboration, about that spirit of collaboration. And so what started as an event is now a movement, and a movement of ambassadors and a movement of people being engaged in their community, and thousands of volunteer hours and internship experiences, and I could go on and on. If you want a lesson out of The Ohio State University in Columbus, our welcome event that started as an event that's turned into an ambassadors program that is a movement would be a lesson that you should take home. Buckeye-thon. So I love this one. I think it's the greatest example of student philanthropy and student engagement in their community that I can imagine. I'm the chair of Nationwide Children's Hospital. We're the largest pediatric institution in the country with 1.4 million visits a year, a top 5 ranked research program, and the largest single one-day fundraiser that we do is done in this room where students dance for 24 hours. Organically started by students. They raised $50,000 one year, $100,000 the next year, and Dr. J, I think it was $1.6 million raised this past spring. Absolutely amazing show of philanthropy, students being involved. And they're not raising money for the Ohio State University, their alma mater. They're raising money for the sick kids of Columbus, and they're proud about it. They're crying about it. They love it. And oh, by the way, that is the spirit of being a Buckeye. Dr. Drake with Jan Rifkin. Jan Rifkin's a Harvard business professor. He wrote The Columbus Way. The town-gown relationship is dependent on administrators being engaged and involved. Presidents, absolutely, but Blake Thompson and Dr. J are forces in our community as well. Maybe even more so than our presidents are. And that's not a slight on the presidents. That's a recognition that it's not one person, it's got to be a team. It's got to be a culture. And I look around this room and see members of our university family that are involved in that culture. This is a picture of our Science Museum and the new National Veterans Memorial. You're only a few months earlier, you would be able to take a tour of that amazing new facility. What I would tell you is throughout that Science Museum is the Ohio State University. I would tell you that throughout our arts community, including an arts center in downtown Columbus, is the Ohio State University. I would tell you that through our state capitol, in leadership programs, in state legislatures themselves, and policy advancements is the Ohio State University. And I would tell you that, keeping our sons and daughters and our mothers and fathers well and caring for them is the Ohio State University. For the fabric of this place that is 100,000 students and faculty within eyeshot of a city that is the 14th largest city is the driving force. You can't touch somewhere in Columbus that you wouldn't find Ohio State or that 150,000 college students. But I believe we are only touching the surface.
A major investment in Central Ohio by Facebook announced today.
A public-private partnership called Smart Columbus will offer a ride and drive roadshow.
Historic run, the second team in National Hockey League history to win 16 consecutive games.
story. It starts in Columbus, Ohio.
Our city is one of 10 international finalists for the Hyperloop.
It's what the owner of one chicken restaurant in Ohio did when he decided to put something else on the menu. A fair chance for job seekers.
The level of collaboration, cooperation that occurs here in this city is unlike anything I've ever seen. And I don't fully know how to explain it except that it's contagious.
So the words U.S. Can't be spelled without the words in Columbus OSU. Might reorder them just a little bit differently. Everything you saw in that video, every accomplishment has a thread of our colleges and our universities and our students and our talent. It is the town-gown relationship. But I would tell you we're just scratching the surface. I said at a trustee meeting last summer when we approved our strategic plan that apparently we as an institution believe that we're going to defy all the changes that are occurring. It wasn't a criticism, it was a challenge. It was a challenge to say, are we innovating on the college side of the equation? Are we innovating on the city side of the equation to get the best? Because it still sort of looks like to me, if I can borrow a couple of extra minutes, it still looks like to me that we're doing university stuff the same way that we've done them for the last 100 years. It doesn't look and feel a lot different than when I was at the University of Tennessee or when my father was at the University of Tennessee. I don't believe our institutions of higher education are changing at this pace. I've been thinking and wondering about this, looking to say who's really doing it well. And I love what we're doing in Columbus. I love what Michael Crow's doing at Arizona State University. Go look at what they're doing from an innovation district. Look at the town-gown relationship between Tempe and the greater Phoenix area and their institution. Look at what he's doing as the nation's largest university. With 30,000 online degree programs. And this isn't the University of Arizona, by the way. This isn't the University of Phoenix online programs. This is Arizona State supplementing, moving into the 21st century, supplementing the relationship that happens when young men and women gather on a campus. That's one example. I'm sure there are a lot of others that I'm interested in learning from because I think the power is the key to economic success. I believe we're just getting started in Columbus. So what's my answer? Look, I think Honest Abe is happy. I think he's happy that we're having the debate and happy that we're having the conversation, happy that we're challenging one another with new thoughts and ideas, that there's a room of 500 people that have gathered, that there's an organization called the International Town-Gown Association. I mean, that in and of itself would make him smile. Makes me smile. I'm glad all of you all are here. Welcome to Columbus. Welcome to our city on behalf of a board of trustees here at The Ohio State University. Welcome to our campus. Have a very fruitful and successful conversation. It was fantastic having the opportunity to be with you for a few minutes. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor of the city of Columbus, Andrew Ginther.
Good thing I at least wore a different tie. That might be awkward. Good afternoon, everyone, and I am thrilled to be here. I want to thank our great president, Dr. Michael Drake, and the Ohio State University for hosting us. We are so glad to be here. I'm going to introduce the outstanding panelists in just a minute. We're very fortunate to have mayors and college presidents and even a mayor who's going to play the role of Donahue and Oprah today. My good friend, Mayor Brown of Youngstown, made the trip down to keep us on track and on task. Well, it's a beautiful day here in Columbus, especially here on the campus of the Ohio State University. Personally, I'd like to welcome you to the ITGA conference and to the great city of Columbus. You know, our time in our city is in a very unprecedented time in our history. We have a record low unemployment rate and a booming housing market. Almost every week, Columbus is highlighted as a top city in some category. Top 10 city for startups from business.org. Most popular city for corporate investment from siteselection.com. Cities with the best work-life balance. There might be some educators that would disagree with that. Work-life balance, particularly this time of year, from smartasset.com. And our future looks bright. Some estimates say our population will double in the next 30 years. Our businesses are diversified with no more than 20% in any given field, which makes us not only strong, but stable. But while 2/3 of our residents are doing very well, in some cases better than ever before, another third of our neighbors are struggling to make ends meet. And for our prosperity to be sustainable and shared, we must assure that every person in every neighborhood in this great city has an opportunity to succeed. Everyone should be part of the success story that is Columbus. This city cannot do this work alone. We need partners like Ohio State and Columbus State. The Ohio State University is a key partner in our Smart Columbus initiative, in which we are harnessing the future of mobility for the good of all of our residents. I believe that mobility is the great equalizer of the 21st century. We know that one of the greatest challenges facing some of our residents is access to jobs, education, childcare, health care, and things you and I take for granted like fresh fruits and vegetables. Through Smart Columbus, we are working together with partners at Ohio State and other corporate leaders to answer questions of mobility. I think the greatest opportunity and privilege and challenge we have of this century is how do we leverage innovation and technology to help people improve their own lives? And Ohio State and the city and other partners are on the front lines of that. Ohio State is also collaborating with us in tackling another of our great challenges, economic mobility. Through a grant with Schmidt Futures, Ohio State is participating in the Alliance for the American Dream to focus on a broad set of new ideas to help grow the middle class here in Columbus. These ideas to be developed in partnership with the city, nonprofit organizations, and other stakeholders. We will make a measurable difference, have real support from their communities, and advance the values of both the community and the program. We're also very proud of the excellent relationship that we have with Columbus State Community College. In 2017, the city entered into a contract with Columbus State to provide an accelerated child development associate program for preschool teachers who are already teaching Columbus children. This gives teachers already on the job an opportunity for advancement and helps us meet our goal that every child in the city of Columbus have access to high-quality preschool opportunities. Access to high-quality early childhood education requires us to train more teachers and increase their level and capacity to teach our youngest residents. President Harris and I look forward to talking more about that partnership and others during the panel. If there's one word, and my guess is you might have heard this from our keynote speaker a little while ago, that defines this city and this community, and probably many of your great partnerships with your communities and universities, it is collaboration. I'm a little biased, but as mayor, I guess I have that privilege. I think we do it better here than anywhere else in the country. But collaboration is what ITGA is all about, too. For this panel, we have gathered municipal and university leaders to discuss the importance of these relationships for the future. Your input is important to the conversation, too. At the conclusion of our discussion, we will take questions from you. Throughout this conversation, please tweet your questions to the hashtag ITGA18 or text your question to 614-300-0856. We're going to do our very best to answer some of the questions submitted. Now, let me introduce our outstanding panelists for today. First, we are so lucky to have the mayor of Findlay, Lydia Mihalik, with us. She assumed her office as the first female mayor of Findlay back in 2012. Since taking office, Mayor Mihalik has given special attention to the issues of flood mitigation, job creation, and improving the way that the city of Findlay delivers service to their residents. We have Dr. Katherine Fell, who has served as president of the University of Findlay since 2010. She's known for her deep commitment to providing an outstanding learning environment for students, respect of the university's culture of shared governance, and passion for supporting the community. Dr. David Harrison became the 5th president of Columbus State Community College in 2010. During his tenure, he has focused the college on the goals of student success and attainment, workforce, innovation, and civic engagement. And our moderator today will be none other than Mayor Tito Brown, who was elected the 51st mayor of the city of Youngstown in 2017. Mayor Brown formerly was the Chief Deputy Treasurer overseeing day-to-day operations of the Mahoning County Treasurer's Office. Mayor Brown also has served as Director of Human Relations Commission for the City of Youngstown. He has also been a community organizer for Youngstown State University Urban and Regional Studies Department and a caseworker for Mahoning County Children's Services Board. Please welcome our panelists for today.
Some comfy chairs.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon.
Cheers.
Ginther said I am Tito Brown. I'm the mayor of Youngstown, Ohio. And I probably heard the guy in the back like, where in the world is Youngstown, Ohio? I'm a little connected to Ohio State as well, because now the president of Youngstown State University, who was the former coach of the Ohio State, Jim Tressel. So Jim sends his love to Ohio State from Youngstown State University. But this afternoon, I'm going to ask each one of our participants if you would just give us a little background and share a little bit about your city, your university, and demographics. And what should this audience know about you, the city you're from, and the university that you represent? I gave you my background from Youngstown State University. I'm between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. I'm 60 miles from both airports, and I love the Ohio State Buckeyes, just to let you know. That's how I am. We'll start off with the ladies. Doc, if you would give us a little background. And
am I connected?
You are connected. I hear you.
Thank you. So I'm Kathy Fell at the University of Findlay. I've been the president there since 2010. Best job on earth. Findlay is a private university affiliated with the Churches of God General Conference. It is a comprehensive university, 6 colleges, 4,000 students. We are based in Christian values, and we welcome all people, and we take both of those things very seriously. It makes for a fascinating culture. We cooperate very closely with our city and county, with civic leaders, certainly with the mayor and her staff, to make Findlay a better place. We face the same challenges probably that you face in your communities, and we try very hard to help solve those problems and meet those challenges.
Well, good afternoon. My name's Lydia Mihalik, and I'm the mayor of the city of Findlay, Ohio. Findlay is in northwest Ohio. We're a community of around 42,000 people. We are the nation's #1 micropolitan for new and expanding business in the country 4 years running. So there's a lot happening in our medium-sized town in northwest Ohio. I'm a graduate of the University of Findlay, so it's a natural partnership that was, put together back in 1998.
We like to think by God.
Yeah. And we have a lot happening in our community, similar to the communities that you represent, similar to the universities and colleges and institutions that you represent. And we are very thankful for the partnership that we have with our university, but also with other universities from across the state as well. And I will say that you have the opportunity today to see something that's very unique, that probably isn't happening in most states across the country. I am very proud of the relationships and the colleagues that I have here on stage. Mayor Brown and Mayor Ginther are great leaders in their cities, but they're great leaders in this state and great leaders in this nation. And they're a great example of what bipartisan cooperation and the movement together to make our communities better, what that really looks like. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to the discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mayor Ginther?
Dave, you want to talk a little bit? Sure. Dave Harrison, president of Columbus State Community College. My office is about 2 miles from here. We are the only open access institution in our region, and Columbus is a big college town, so that really matters. We serve about 26,000 students and are by far the most diverse institution of higher education in our region. We partner with Ohio State and our other great colleges and universities on pathways to affordability to the bachelor's degree that we think are really important. We've got deep partnerships with high schools in an 11-county area that's enabling students to start their college career earlier, free of charge to their families through a program called College Credit Plus. And we've got a deep network of partnerships with employers to really make sure that students are being prepared for the high-performance workplace and that employees are continuing to upgrade their skills. Education is no longer an event in people's lives. It's something that really is continuous, and we've got a network of employers in our region who are partnering with us to make that easy for people to expand their skills. I was really fortunate when I became mayor for a variety of different reasons. First of all, I got to follow one of the most successful and longest serving mayors in our city's history. But former Mayor Coleman understood the power and the ability to leverage relationships between the city and the community in Ohio State and Columbus State and our other institutions of higher education. And what we've done is really built on that foundation and leverage those even more, particularly in our neighborhoods. The work that we're doing in partnership with Ohio State in the Pact area on the Near East Side, and that work continues. Columbus State, and David and I are going to talk a little bit about some of the great things that we've done building on previous experience with FastPath and other programs. My vision for our city is for us to become America's opportunity city. And what that means to me is that we have the largest middle class of any city our size in the country, and a place you're more likely to go from poverty to the middle class and beyond than anywhere else. And we know that our institutions of higher education are a critical part of helping us realize that vision. But it also means our institutions of higher education of going about doing things differently and being more innovative. I mean, a good overwhelming majority of Dave's students work full-time or part-time to support their families while they're continuing their education. A number of the students here at Ohio State and the other institutions are doing the same thing. So how can we continue to deliver, whether it's for certificates or for a particular type of training or education, or 2- and 4-year degrees, which are still a very important part of our city's future, and I know Findlay's future as well. But how do we open up those doors
of accessibility, flexibility, and support to make sure that folks from all different walks of life, whether they're the first generation college student in their family, or third or fourth, that they can be successful.
Yeah. That's a good segue to my next question for the panel. The question is, prior to your tenure, how did you decide, or how did you think about how to strengthen the partnership between the cities and universities? And were there areas of growth you focused on? And how did you capitalize on those opportunities?
You know, I'll go ahead and let Dr. Fell tell you about our partnership first, because she actually was first on campus and given the job of university president before I was elected mayor.
Right, so I came to Findlay in 2010, as I said. Prior to that opportunity, I spent 25 years at a Methodist liberal arts college in Shreveport, Louisiana. And let me tell you, Ohio's better in the summer than Louisiana is. And I'm really benefited tremendously from those 25 years there. First as an English professor, and then moved into administration as a vice president, eventually as a vice president for advancement. So I had the experience of teaching English and of raising money, and both of those experiences, I think, prepared me well for community outreach. As a professor, and as the mother of 6 children, perhaps the hardest calling of all, I was very interested in education within the community. All of our children attended public schools from elementary through high school, so I was very engaged there. I was interested in promoting literacy and the appreciation of literature for all people. My opinion is that you don't want to coach an engineer, a doctor, or a dentist who hasn't read some books and who doesn't know some poetry. And so that was sort of my one-woman mission. In fact, I recall being at the dentist office with my mouth filled with cotton when my dentist said, you know, I tested out of all my college English classes, and I don't think I read a single novel during my entire college career. He didn't go to the college where I taught. And I said, I'm sending you a book list. Don't ever say that to me again, especially with cotton in my mouth. So those were my causes. Those were my causes, and through those causes, I developed deep friendships and relationships. And so I would say what I learned as an advancement officer is that people don't give to you just because they like you. They don't just give money to their friends. They give that kind of money to their children. They give to people they trust for causes they believe in. And you, as an ambassador for your cities and for your universities, can be those people, and you have great causes. So prior to my becoming president, I had a number of opportunities to develop relationships with a community, a thriving community in North Louisiana. And the opportunity now in Findlay to grow from that opportunity I had before has been tremendous and a real gift for me.
So I was elected at the age of 30, and I took office at the age of 31. I was really excited about the transformation that was taking place at our local university, being an alum, seeing all of the amazing opportunities that we had to be able to partner together. I was excited because I was new blood in City Hall. Dr. Fell was new blood down at Old Main at the University of Findlay. And I valued her guidance. I valued her experience as a driven woman professional, leading an institution through what inevitably was going to be change because we needed to in order to evolve. So the city was really in a very similar situation, and I knew that for the city to be able to grow, which we are now, growing and learning more about who we are and what we could potentially be, the strength and the partnership between the local university, which originally was an experiment with the Churches of God General Conference, and the city of Findlay. That's how Findlay College came to be. I wanted to get back to that, and I wanted to be intentional about the way that we work together, because I knew that our successes would be together only if we were willing to have that type of relationship. So from my perspective, There was I needed someone to look to as a young leader up and coming, but I also knew that the university would be the key to our success well into the future.
Sure. How about the Columbus?
Well, one of the things that Dave has done in his tenure at Columbus State is really have the college embrace their role in life in downtown Columbus. That had never really been done in a purposeful and intentional way until Dave came there. And so the forming of the creative campus, which has now kind of been the springboard to, I think, what will be one of the city's first opportunity corridors, stretching from Columbus, downtown Columbus through Milo Grogan into Linden and all the way up to Northland, where we have a huge job center, both Easton and the Huntington Center up there. And that's in large part because of Dave's vision and commitment to downtown and wanting to be a connector to our opportunity neighborhoods. As we talked about earlier, 2/3 of the city is doing better than ever before. We have about 8 neighborhoods where we have alarmingly high crisis level infant mortality rates, lack of safe and affordable housing, poor performing educational institutions, and a disproportionate amount of violent crime taking place. Those neighborhoods, all those stats I gave you earlier about how wonderful Columbus is and fantastic and great, if I took you to those neighborhoods right now, you wouldn't believe any of the things I told you. Because that is a different life and different challenges that our neighbors are facing in those communities. And that's when you have to have a partner like Columbus State who is committed to downtown and opportunity neighborhoods and are willing to roll up their sleeves and stand shoulder to shoulder in helping to offer solutions in partnership with our residents. And that's something that Dave has really brought to Columbus State, in addition to his partnership with education reform and innovation and expanding opportunities there, is their role and commitment to downtown and being a connector in our opportunity neighborhoods.
Those are all critical pieces, and I've only been the mayor 5 days. No, actually, 5 months. 5 months.
Feels like 5 months.
But who's counting, right?
Right.
No gray hair yet.
But the one thing that works well for me is that both my bachelor's and my master's degree were from Youngstown State, and I had an opportunity to work at the university. So I kind of had a chance to watch the inside baseball of the university growing and partnering with the city of Youngstown. And we had a plan. We worked a plan in 2010. And from that, there were relationships that continue to exist in Youngstown, and which has helped us strive to be a better university town. But what you talked about, the opportunity corridor and the partnerships that we're developing with the president, oftentimes we'll just have a sit down. We won't talk politics, we won't talk university. We just sit down and build relationships and get a chance to know how many kids do you have, how's the family, how's the dog, when's vacation. So that's been a critical piece for me, just to get a chance to know the university staff. And we stop at a local place if you get a chance in Youngstown. It's called Charlie Staples. Just a cup of love if you're down in Youngstown on the campus. We'll have, with the facilities, I'll talk with facilities and faculty to get a good understanding. The next question, let's talk about, the successful partnerships between universities and cities are not built overnight. From the perspective, what has been the key to the success of the partnership? And I mentioned just sitting down and breaking bread for me in my university town, but what would you say was the success? What's the key?
Dave, you want to try that? Well, I think it all starts with relationships and kind of a shared commitment that you can do more together than you could individually. And when I came here in 2010, I was immediately struck by that's the way Columbus operates. And it's not the kind of town you got to wait your turn. It's the kind of town that confronts the hard facts and addresses issues that need to be addressed. And we're not afraid to make mistakes. And there's a pretty good litany of examples just between the city and the college where we've leaned in together on big, messy things, whether it be early childhood education, whether it be economic mobility and income inequality, some of the infrastructure things that the mayor talked about. These are all choices that each of us make, and our bureaucracies don't naturally align. So much of it, Mayor, as you talked about, is really about picking up the phone and saying, hey, we're thinking about this. Is there something you can do to help? Those kinds of conversations lead to systemic change, and we've seen some real success in that regard.
I think the one thing that's very key to our relationship is it definitely starts at the top, right? So if your leaders are willing to have the conversation, and your leaders are willing to be intentional about tackling even the most uncomfortable conversations, whether that's campus safety and security or potential expansion plans and how we can help incentivize that. There's a whole broad range of topics that we could be potentially discussing, but it's not just us, it's the willingness of our team to have those same conversations, because clearly, our days are just as busy as yours are. And if the whole team isn't willing to communicate and work together, I think that can be very difficult. It can make progress, almost stagnant, really. And we've had our challenges around that. Issues around, police departments and those types of things, and which I think, any city is going to have that when you're in growth mode. But I think the willingness to have the conversation and the willing to actually make the change, which takes a lot of effort, is really key.
I agree. I'd say three things are key. Okay. And City of Findlay, led by Lydia and her team, have been very instrumental in success for us. And those are strong relationships that are real and genuine. And again, to your point, throughout the ranks, Lydia and I might get along well. We do, in fact. I really like her children, and sometimes I even feed them their chicken nuggets at night. So we really like each other. That's not always the case, and it's not required. But the friendship and trust and professional commitment has to be real at the top, and you have to have leaders throughout your ranks who also live into that and know that you mean it. So that when there are difficulties, it doesn't then, among your staff and the city's staff, when those difficulties arise, you can deal with it honestly and forthrightly and fairly, and the entire relationship isn't ruined. So if your relationship is real, you're going to need to be able to disagree with each other and sometimes give up a little bit of your own interest for the benefit of the whole.
I think Kathy hit it right there
that's a good one.
on the head. That we talked a little bit about this before. We almost, I don't want to say take for granted, but it's an expectation in both of our communities now that the university president and the mayor are going to work together, and certainly that is the expectation in our community with both Dave and President Drake. That's when you know you've gone from charismatic leadership or a personal relationship with two people to embedding it in the culture. And I think to your final point there, Kathy, going from, and we all have responsibilities. He has a board, I have voters, both of you have to deal with state legislators, I guess. The mayor and I do too. Yeah. There are lots of folks that we work for and answer to, but going from a zero-sum approach to a relationship with a city and a university to what's in our collective best interest. And there's so much more in common, but we can't take it for granted. It's something you have to commit and recommit to. There are communities around this country where there are no relationships or strained relationships between universities and cities. It's something that once you build and embed it in your culture, you have to protect it.
It's something that builds over time. You're exactly right. And I think that confidence needs to be in place because you're taking a risk. Because you're taking on things that you don't necessarily control as a leader. When you go into partnership, you really are going shoulder to shoulder, as the mayor said, doing something that's bigger than either of the partners. But that's where the problems are. right? I mean, that's where the people are. That's where the coalition of the willing, I think, really comes together to take these big, messy things on, which is what good leadership needs to do.
That's it. And I hear the relationships, and if anyone could take anything away from today, it's about building relationships. Not all relationships are going to be, the best, but at least you have an understanding of what those relationships, and the word is partnership, look like. I know, and I mentioned from Youngstown State and the city of Youngstown, I've had Friday afternoons where President Trussell, he has a 4-person gator. He rides around the university. University expanding. They're expanding now, and they're running out of space because we have students that want to come and live. So what used to be their comfort zone, now they're expanding what we call west of Belmont and east of Fifth Avenue. Students didn't used to go. They would stop at the edge, and that's only where they knew when they came. Don't go past that area. And now we were in the gator, riding west of Belmont, looking at expanding that area. But they're going to be the partnership between myself and the president to make sure that it emerged. It's a new partnership. That's a new area, uncharted. In Columbus, you guys have different opportunities where the culinary, hospitality management, child development, Fast Path, and even the Columbus Education Commission. Talk to me a little bit about what that partnership looks like. And in Findlay, you guys have the Center for Civic Engagement, as well as the International Partnership. Talk about those partnerships, and I'm going to take notes because I don't have any one of these things in my in my area right now, and I want to learn.
That's why we're here, right?
I want to learn. Correct.
We'll follow Findlay's lead.
Okay. Well, the Center for Civic Engagement is housed on our campus, but it's a community-wide effort. And I think one key is that you don't pretend it's all yours when it belongs to everyone. But the business sector, the government sector, and the education sector have come together to support a Center for Civic Engagement, which is the clearinghouse and the research body for the major initiatives in our community. There are 7 of those, and there are ones that you could probably name. One is mental health and drug use, transportation, food security, and so forth. We, like Columbus and Youngstown, face these problems wide-eyed and in reality with, we hope, compassion, but also real research and real information. We don't pretend those issues are not there. And together, we are trying to make sure that we do not waste any effort, that we don't duplicate efforts, that all those efforts throughout the community are flowing through one communication channel.
Yeah, the Center for Civic Engagement is a real opportunity for us as a community just to get better. Things like workforce development, housing, issues around mental health and drug addiction, which are impacting probably our state, probably more so than others. But really the university took a big leap of faith with us and said, look, we are willing to house this, we are willing to help be the backbone to make sure that these coalitions can work together and be successful, and we're thankful for that. And the Center for Civic Engagement is a new thing for the university. The university has been very widely known for its work in emergency management. The city of Findlay has been thankful for the work that they've done for us just around what we do for large-scale hazmat issues, mass casualty incidents. The university has been a leader and great for us in that realm. We just finished a really large exercise at one of the largest employers we have in our community, at Whirlpool Corporation. They make more dishwashers, you can take this home with you. They make more dishwashers in Findlay, Ohio than they do anywhere else in the world. So it's a really big, large employment center for us. And the University of Findlay was a leader in the development of that response plan with all of our first responders and educational institutions and those things. So that's stuff that really they've been doing for a really long time, but the Center for Civic Engagement was new.
It's new and a big investment. If you take on a challenge, you don't want to fail at it. But we felt safe in taking on that challenge because we're not in it alone, and that's key. We want our community, like that third you're talking about in Columbus, we want that third in Findlay to have opportunities. We want to see those children come to the University of Findlay as students. And to do that, we have a lot of work to do.
Dave, you want to talk a little bit about our partnerships, Culinary Center and Fast Path and so on?
Mayor, first of all, my first job out of college, the Whirlpool plant in Findlay was one of my big customers, so I spent a lot of time at the Holiday Inn in Findlay.
Well, we appreciate that.
I'm glad they're still humming.
Yeah. Still making the connections, right? Still making the connections.
Yeah, we've got, and the mayor mentioned a long list of great partnerships with the city, and they all involve helping move families forward one way or another. We have, through a public-private partnership, have a new School of Hospitality Management and Culinary Arts that we're developing. Cameron Mitchell and Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, many of you are familiar, has been a big benefactor and is helping us raise private money. The state came in and matched the private philanthropy dollar for dollar. The college is putting money into it. So we're building what we think will be a signature opportunity that has become catalytic for a lot of other kinds of things. So we're building this School of Hospitality Management and Culinary Arts on a campus where we know students are struggling with food insecurity, in a community that we know is a food desert. We're not ignoring that. So we're bringing in partners like the Mid-Ohio Food Bank, one of the best in the country, like the United Way, whose focus is on elimination of poverty, like the Community Shelter Board, who's seeking to eliminate and prevent homelessness, and like the YMCA, who may be looking to build a new fitness center on or near our campus, which would then bring childcare and perhaps a healthcare partner, not just to our campus, but to the community. As Mayor Ginther mentioned before, our students don't have the luxury of doing one thing at a time. They're students while they're parents, while they're employees. So the ability for us to bring all of that together and get them the help they need when they need it is what we're trying to do as a college, but more importantly, the community is trying to do. I say all the time, our campus looks like Columbus will look like in 10 years. So we're a great test bed for these kinds of services and partners to intervene in people's lives at the right moment. There's been no better partner than the city as we look at, first on the creative campus area that we're talking about, which the mayor calls appropriately the Opportunity Corridor. In their most recent capital budget, they allocated $7.3 million for improvements to Cleveland Avenue because transportation is so important. He talked about Smart Columbus and mobility. Having a smart mobility hub in close location with this new culinary center, which will be the gateway to our campus, is an example of how all of these dominoes kind of come together. That's all been built on a series of partnerships focused on workforce issues one way or another. Mayor Ginther mentioned the early childhood program and the Child Development Associate certificate. That absolutely helps improve the quality of early childhood education. It also helps improve the job prospects of the teachers in those programs because through a partnership with OSU, they've got an opportunity to earn a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. Our Fast Path program, again, in direct partnership with the city, was designed to help, they're all students to me, but help people who hadn't quite made it out of the recession. A lot of great economic indicators in the city of Columbus, but we knew that people were being left behind. So again, partnering with the city to help students on short-term, career-oriented programs in healthcare, in construction, in early childhood, to get to that first rung was something that was a direct partnership through the city's leadership and the mayor's office.
And the great part about Fast Path was it got someone employed quickly at a decent wage, but it also had them understand what the career trajectory was if they continued to get additional licensure, credentials, and education as they went. They need to support
their families today. They're raising their kids, maybe caring for their parents. They need to work to support their family today, but we want them to build a career and not just be in a job that they don't have as much control over their financial security 10, 20, 30 years from now. There's a force multiplier effect to these kinds of relationships. One thing leads to another. We did FastPath to solve one problem, but having done that, it gave us a framework to take on the early childhood education program more quickly and at the bigger scale.
Yeah. We have a couple more questions before we can get to the audience questions as well. And we talked about all the partnerships that you have. If I just, I'll start down and just give me one word to tell me, how do you improve those partnerships? What would be the one word? The room for improvement is the largest room there. How do you improve those partnerships?
One word?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
English professor, too.
I know, right? She's got all the words in the
lots of
world
words.
at
She's
her
going to bring that
disposal.
word out for me.
Yeah. Time.
Time.
I can't elaborate.
Okay, that's
no adjectives, no adverbs. Time.
That's one word. That's on the board.
Just make of it what you will.
There you go.
Communication.
Communications.
Innovation. Persistence.
Persistence. Okay. And those are all great words, and I think that helps the audience think about, when you're building these partnerships, what happens or how do you get that end result. The other one question I wanted to talk about, and I think this is my question, whether it was individually or collectively, how did you engage the corporate partners in your communities? Were there challenges? If so, how did you overcome those challenges?
So we engaged with our corporate partners almost daily. We have Fortune 500 companies in our town of 42,000 people. We have small businesses and everything in between. We have a number of international companies that we have helped bring, the city and the university have helped bring to Findlay. We engage them by offering them what we can in our curriculum. Okay. We take their advice seriously about what they want to see in our graduates. We try to provide those characteristics and skills in our graduates. We, of course, ask them for their financial support, but that is never the first question. Mm-hmm. Again, we believe that the university's obligation is to be a provider of services to our neighbors. And if we provide those services appropriately, they'll understand the cause and support us. And that doesn't mean we don't ask. I have a lot of chicken Caesar salad lunches, and I certainly ask, but I ask without apology because we serve a cause greater than ourselves.
So chicken Caesar salad is the
I'd
secret
say
recipe?
add that.
Add that.
Yeah, add chicken Caesar salad 2 times.
There you go.
You've got a combination that'll win.
Thank you, Doc.
I'll say that we're very, very, very unique, I think, in Findlay, and that, Dr. Fell mentioned our Fortune 500 companies. We are home to Cooper Tire and Rubber Company, their headquarters, and one of their manufacturing facilities, and also Marathon Petroleum Corporation. Marathon Petroleum Corporation is a very large company. It's a top 50 company in the world. And we are very fortunate to have it on our main street, and they just announced last week or the week before that they're doubling in size.
That's great.
With an acquisition of Andover. So that's going to create some real opportunities and challenges for us as well. But I will say the one thing that has worked very well in our community from the get-go, even prior to our tenure in our respective positions, is that the leaders of those companies and the institutions and local government have been willing to sit around the table and talk about what's important. Not sending necessarily someone that is in a government affairs position, but the leadership of these companies, whether it's large oil company or industrial manufacturer for automobile parts, we're all willing to sit around the table and talk about what's important. And most often, the university is a key connector in a lot of different areas. And without the university to be there as a convener, I think we would be a different community. And so we're thankful to have the university there, but thankful because they are a great contribution to our private sector partners.
Sure, that's
as
good
well.
to hear. In Columbus, Ohio, how about you?
We're the workforce engine for our region, and there's not a company in Central Ohio that isn't trying to figure out the next generation of talent. So getting employers to the table is not a hard thing to do. We're lucky, again, in our region that we've got employers that are looking past their own needs and really trying to elevate the region. And that's manifested itself in their direct interest in K-12 education, for example. And we've become kind of the convener of K-12 from a workforce standpoint, so that employers don't have to work with dozens of school districts. We can do that collectively. We've also used their input and do every day to figure out what we need to be looking at next. So I put together a workforce advisory council that's made up of the chief talent officers of the largest corporations in our region to advise me directly. We meet quarterly, we meet this Friday, so that I can understand what their pain points are, what they're anticipating, so that I can help our students and our faculty and staff know programmatically what we need to do, but so that we can also partner with employers in a different way. Education is no longer an event in people's lives, it's something that's continuous, and the employees that are already in place in many of these employers need to continue to build their skills, and that's an important role that Columbus State plays.
I think that what it comes down to, and I was just thinking about this is listening to the other panelists speak. Talent is the next battle over the next 20 years in economic development. This whole back and forth, I think incentives and those types of things are becoming less and less important. And as you look at the demographics shifting in population and more boomers retiring, we're going to go from 4 workers to 1 recipient on Social Security to 2 for everyone. I think every day in America for the next 15 years, 16,000 boomers will retire. So which communities are able to attract and retain talent for the jobs of the future? And so I guess it just reinforces to me the importance of this association, the partnerships between institutions of higher education and cities. We had a regional economic development effort here, and Findlay has one as well. Ours was Columbus 2020. It was just recently announced we are 2 years ahead of schedule with a number of jobs created. I think we wanted to generate $5 billion, $8 billion worth of private investment, create 150,000 net new jobs, and raise per capita income by 30%. We are well on our way to achieving all those goals, and just achieved and realized our jobs goal recently. And that's because President Drake and President Harrison and all of our higher ed leaders and K through 12 partners are at the table charting our course with respect to workforce and talent. But you think about how much more important in the next 20 years talent is going to be. You will have companies moving communities not for incentives, but based on where the talent is and where they can grow their companies into the future. And so the partnerships between universities and cities, I think, have never been more important.
And the cities that figure that out, the quickest are going to be the winners.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really, we all are in competition for the best and the brightest, and it's the way it is. And the people that figure it out are going to win, and the cities that don't are going to fall behind. Yeah. And that's why we come out and we share best practices about what we're doing, because we want everybody to have that opportunity and to realize that there's so much to be had relative to this relationship. And the success of our metropolitan areas, the success of our urban areas across the country are highly dependent upon that relationship that we have with education. And we're fortunate that we have that here, and I know that you have that as well.
Well, that's good to know. We actually have a couple questions I wanted to have the audience participate in, but just as it relates to industry, I know in where I live in the city of Youngstown, advanced manufacturing It's not grandpa or uncle's steel mill anymore. It's so much more about, you know, the technology and 3D printing. If you guys get a chance, America makes Google. America makes, there's only one star in the United States of America, and that's where, right there in Youngstown, Ohio, we're doing 3D printing. So we're figuring out, you know, I can make that glass out of 3D. Well, I can't, but somebody can.
Somebody can. Somebody can help you.
I can tell the kid I need one of those for my next time you guys have me. I'll bring some props with me. The first question I have, it comes from Twitter. It says, how do your colleges contribute financially to the cities via taxes or pilots? And I don't know if that's.
Well, we contribute through economic impact, and, you know, like most campuses, we occasionally have a third party give us those numbers so that we can have them as sound bites whenever I meet with Mayor Mihalik. And they're really good.
We know what
bites.
that is.
Yeah. So how do we contribute economically? I would say by, first of all, we saved the city a lot of money by our services from our faculty, staff, and students. We also bring in lots of hotel and restaurant business through our many events on campus. We do not pay taxes per se, and we don't want any legislation that would have us do that. So in that case, we'll be spending our money on lobbyists.
Right.
And that would just be a waste. So, but we provide, we're one of the large employers, certainly not the largest, but one of the larger employers in the community, bringing lots of construction work, millions of dollars of construction into the area.
Yeah, so they're a large contributor relative to income tax. The city's main source of income for the services that we provide is income tax. The university is a large employer in the area, in the region, a big contributor.
And in that respect, yes.
You know, there has been a significant amount of growth in the university's campus lately. New residential options, a great new center for business education, you know, lots of things happening. So so the University of Findlay goes, the city of Findlay goes.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and so it's a big contributor to what we do.
Well, I know our economic development agreements that we've entered into with Ohio State in particular helped fund the transformation of the Near East Side and the PACT effort there, and the investments that have been made at OSU East, a hospital on the east side, into other critical basic neighborhood needs. They as well, the Neighborhood Design Center that's part of the Ohio State University, is helping to lead our neighborhood planning, those opportunity neighborhoods. So we've pretty much wrapped up Linden. We're moving on to the Hilltop, and it is that resource that we're using. It's being driven by the community, led by the community, but being facilitated by the Neighborhood Design Center, and they're going to help us you know, put in place plans that we can then attract and leverage private investment to help get things done for the people of those neighborhoods. So there's so many ways. Income tax revenue, though, is very, very important. You know, 10 years ago, cities in Ohio received about 65% of their revenue for their general funds from income tax. It's now at nearly 75%. And if things continue at the federal and state level as they have been, probably 80% by the end of the decade will come down to income tax revenue. So we need people working good paying jobs so that we can continue to provide basic city services in growing, thriving cities.
And it's that piece that I think is our biggest long-term economic impact, is really helping people advance in their careers. We talk about, you know, we're not trying to help people get jobs, we're trying to help them get their second job, because that's the one that really gets them economic mobility, really gets them the independence and the higher paying jobs that lead to more income tax. We serve students from all 88 counties in Ohio, which is unusual for a community college. So we do feel like Columbus, we're a net importer of talent, because a lot of those students, most of them, come here and stay here. So the ability to make sure they've got the skills for the 21st century is an important part
Can
of
I
it.
just add that I think as important as the economic impact is to a community like, let's say, Findlay, Ohio, the cultural impact that the university has had on us, the exposure to a world-class community. You know, we are developing and trying to get there. And without the University of Findlay and the very diverse population that they have, from not just people from across the country, but across the world, the exposure that our citizens have to that is that it's hard to put a price tag on that. And you know, in the middle of Northwest Ohio, those opportunities are few and far between unless you're in an international business climate. And to have that opportunity, I mean, I'm thinking like, I've met princesses from the Congo and, you know, people from the Middle East and, you know, just things that, you know, people who have probably never even gone outside the county.
Don't forget the Tibetan monks.
And the Tibetan monks.
I think you left them out.
I did.
Well,
I didn't intend to do that.
That's interesting because I do have a question from Twitter, and we can make this our last question as we get ready to wrap up. The question is, how do you work with or build relationships with minority groups in the community?
Oh, that's so important.
So let's have
well,
our...
we're working very hard at that and have been for a number of years to attract and provide support for people of any background, certainly from our local community, from the state, the country, the world. We have, internationally, we have a lot of diversity in that we have about 40 countries represented among our student body. And our faculty and staff, we work very hard to attract minority members, level of ethnic diversity. And in fact, we are selecting a firm to do a climate survey for our campus to really test in a scientifically legitimate way just how welcoming we are.
That's good to hear.
Because you know what we'll learn.
You have to be.
Is that we're not as welcoming as we think we
Sure.
are. But we certainly want to be.
Got to work on it, right?
I think that from my perspective, knowing your strengths is great, but also recognizing that you have weaknesses and you have a lot of room for improvement is super important. And I know that in our little slice of Ohio, we have a long way to go to get to that official title. But we've come a long way. But we have lots of conversations that we need to have, you know, around just religious differences. You know, just things that maybe a large urban center like Columbus, you had that conversation years ago, but we're just getting into it. But the best part is that we recognize that it's a weakness and we're willing to work on it together. And we're willing to have that conversation because that's the only way.
We're still working on it.
We're going to improve
We haven't finished that conversation.
Yeah, but I feel
Some
like
of our neighbors have just started it.
That's true. That's true.
I'd say that it takes vision, leadership, and commitment from the top. University presidents and mayors, and being dogged about it. You know, I'm blessed to have Dr. Harrison and Dr. Drake and so many other leaders here. Diversity and inclusion is not a box we check in Columbus. We want to embed it in the process and have it be the lens that we look through a process. I mean, if we like to think of ourselves as being smart and open. Well, you can't be smart and open if you know, this vision of America's Opportunity City excludes our neighbors. And if we're going to continue to grow and thrive with the diversity that we have seen come to this community in the last 20 or 30 years, we know that's just going to continue to grow and become more diverse, which I'm excited about. There's some people in Columbus that aren't quite sure yet. So we've got to continue to work with them and reassure them that the more people that are successful, the more shared prosperity, the larger the winner's circle, and the more reflective that is of the community, how much stronger and safer and stable we're going to be.
Dr. Harrison?
We, over 40% of our student body are from minority backgrounds. We have really taken that personally by focusing on neighborhood schools. One of the things that's important is tone at the top, and Mayor Ginther has made neighborhoods an important part of his platform. Through some private sector investment, we've been able to have some deep penetration with urban schools, and through a large federal grant through 7 districts that have a high percentage of low-income families. So we're trying to be intentional about not just diversity recruitment, but in student success. We have been a member of a national organization called Achieving the Dream since 2011. And through that work, we've been able to close the gap, the performance gap for low-income students and students of color significantly. That's a workforce issue, that's a community issue, and it's a way that we think we can help advance families to really change the trajectory of their lives.
Well, I'd like to take this time to thank all of our panelists to be a part of this. I think you guys should give them a big round of applause because.
Thank you.
Very educational, informative, and just a great opportunity for us to be here. For those who had questions on Twitter, if we didn't answer your questions, Mayor Ginther and his team will work to answer those questions for you, so that you didn't come, and say, I tried to ask a question and no one would answer the question. So we will at a later date and time. I'm glad I didn't have to bring, Oprah and Phil are good, but I thought I was going to have to bring my Jerry out. Listen, you guys, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Mayor Ginther, you want to have some closing remarks?
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
So I'd like to thank again all of our outstanding panelists today, Mayor Mihalik, Dr. Fell, Dr. Harrison, and Mayor Brown for leading us and doing the cat herding of mayors and university presidents through a conversation. For all of our out-of-town visitors, I hope you have a chance to explore this great city and spend lots of money in our restaurants, shops, and stores. Somehow or another, the auditor put that in my notes here today. We have top-notch restaurants, breweries, distilleries, and entertainment options, as well as miles of parkland and trails for biking, walking, and exploring. Again, my thanks to The Ohio State University and Dr. Drake for hosting this conference, and my thanks to all of you for attending.